The popular Toyota C-HR gets a new brother. This is here the Toyota C-HR+, which is actually similar in the naming, but a completely different vehicle. What are they doing and how good is it? Exterior, interior and the driving test for you here today with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the new C-HR+ in this metal oxide color. So yeah, very interesting iron-ish color. As a contrast, we also have a gray. It's a high mineral, it's called actually, with a contrasting roof. But staying with this here for the moment. And in this case, we have 18-inch wheels mounted. It's also fine from looks already. We also have as an alternative on the other vehicle 20-inch. The interesting thing is that in the width, they are the same. 235 millimeters, both front and the rear. And no matter if you go for the 18 or for the 20-inch wheels. The length here is at 4 meters 53, 178 inches, and it has a longer wheelbase than the standard C-HR. The standard C-HR, famous for the hybrid, also available as the plug-in hybrid. And this one is now actually two big differences. First of all, this has a completely different rear. So I think front and side are kind of similar. The rear is very distinctive from the other C-HR brother. More angular, light strip going all the way through, and look at that, oh, a tiny Toyota logo. So in contrast to sometimes now large letterings, here a logo and in a very small way, and here it says BEV. This one is the fully electric C-HR. This is what they in this case mean by plus. Also like a small alternative to the BZ4X, their other electric model, a little bit smaller here as I said, but it still carries the C-HR naming and somewhat looks maybe not so in the rear. And as for the technical specifications, so you would start with a small battery at 54 kilowatt hours net, then you get only front wheel drive, not so quick acceleration, and 140 kilometers max speed. So for German taste, maybe not enough for the German Autobahn. However, then we are here today equipped with the big battery, and the big battery is at 72 kilowatt hours net, so higher range. And then you get front wheel drive, as we have here today, and 7.3 seconds in the acceleration figure, or with all-wheel drive, additional electric motor in the rear, with 5.2 seconds in the acceleration figure. Toyota expects that most people will go for this one, big battery and the front wheel drive, because it's the most efficient one actually. And charging is, in any case, 11 kilowatt AC, 150 kilowatt DC peak. It's not that much. 28 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge. So in charging, if you present a new car with that low kind of charging power today, that's maybe not the most clever idea. Let's take it that way. So in charging, it already disappoints a little bit, honestly, but it's even more important. What about the range and the efficiency? We'll do a test today. 100 kilometers an hour and 120 kilometers an hour, so 60 miles an hour and 70 miles an hour on the motorway, back and forth, topographic equalization, and see how efficient it is. And that means also then we will test the real world range for you. So 18 or 20 wheels, 18 or 20 inch wheels don't make the biggest difference because the width is the same as I said, but the front wheel drive will be a little more efficient, so looking forward to that. One more thing, let's check out if there is a frunk or not. Let's see about that. And already tell me in the comments if you like this one or the standard C-HR more in the design. And oh, that's a little bit. So hours later, meanwhile, Leah went for lunch while I was trying to find this mechanism here. And well, kind of wasted because there is no frunk. There is some space here left in the height. Sometimes people also retrofit these frunks, don't they? Huge dampening here also underneath, so I also wonder then about the sound installation later on. Even electric motors, does make sense to insulate them definitely. Now it's time to check out the interior. Key fob, nothing special, then door closing sound. Ooh, in the front that's doesn't sound that good, maybe they gotta work on that. Here, by the way, the rear door is attached there of course, but I mean like here the integrated door handle. Yeah, door closing sound. In the rear actually a little bit better, but door closing sound is not their specialty, let's take it that way. Then inside of doors, here we have a nice microfiber insert, although this is only the mid trim. Then on top part is somewhat soft as well. Classic window levers here at the inside of the doors and so on. Hard pack then in the lower part right here. And then we have this steering that is known from a BZ4X, real buttons at the steering wheel here, for example, also for the volume, and then relatively high digital instruments that you do not need a head-up display. So they are far away and high. This is their concept for instruments that are basically like an integrated head-up display, so to speak. Then here in the mid-trim we have fabric seats, and they look pretty cool. They also feel very nice, so it's a very high quality fabric with some also good quality leatherette on the outside. As an alternative, in the high trim vehicle, I have these bright seats which more have like a microfiber-like quality. They also look pretty cool, and I took a test seat in both, and honestly, these to me feel a little bit more likable and probably also more breathable in summertime. So I would actually prefer these here. And headroom here with 189, 6'2", no problem, so a lot of headroom left. There is also again in this high trim level vehicle, a glass roof available which has an electric shade, but you cannot open it for fresh air. Here, mid trim, and already with this lamination in the windows. The only thing here, when you put in the windows, it's like boof, boof. So if they want to be more quality, savvy and so on, they should make it a little bit smoother how the windows like hammer in. But it's actually cool, already has this lamination in the mid-trim. Looking forward to how silent it is then on the motorway. And now the cockpit here and interior details. So first of all here the steering wheel, manual, up and down, in and out. And when it's all the way low I can very well see the instruments, but then it gets too close here with my knee, so I have to put it somewhat up. And then it is still, quite high here, and then it is blocking the view a little bit. I can still see the speed, but nothing underneath. Yeah, oh, that's a cool move from Leah here. So yeah, that's a little bit, pro and con. At least I can see the speed still, because that's in a higher place than, Let's see about that while driving. What's good is the steering wheel quality. This is also an animal-free material and it feels really nice, also dampened underneath and so on. And Toyota even says that their new material is more durable than before. So very good prospects as for that. Then we have this large infotainment screen with Lexus alike here. You maybe know it from Lexus models. So this is a digital climate control, but they have basically glued these things here on the screen. We know it from Ford Mustang Mach-E and also from some Lexus models, like the smaller ones, also like the SUVs and so on. And then you turn it and it basically like imitates as someone would be doing like this on the screen. It's very interesting, right? But the thing is that you have the screen solution, but you still have the physical interface. And so I gotta say, why not? Seat heating and steering heating is then done on the screen like this. The car also has a car internal map, so that is available. Most of the time probably people will go for the Apple CarPlay and Auto integration, and that looks exactly like this. And then here, manual vents here in the lower part. 2 inductive charging pads. They are not ventilated though, so probably got to use the cable charging, and that's here underneath. So underneath this console here, there is then a USB-C charger. And then we have the shifting, like plop, plop. This is drive, and this is reverse, and then somewhat annoying, isn't it? And then we have cup holders. They are adaptive, 3-dot design adaptive right here, so that's cool. And then the middle console, they have a leatherette covering. However, I think, it's also somewhat dampened underneath, but I should have made it like a little bit tighter, like from the surface you can see here. And this one opens in 2 ways, this way or that way. Can do a Homer Simpson move then all day. Open like this, open like that, open like this, open like that. And some space underneath. And behind that, for the rear passengers, you have 2 more USB-C chargers. Overall, the cockpit has a good overview, I think, and it's also interesting in this, this special surface here on the dashboard. So why not? But we still see that Toyota is very good in reliability. But the interiors are always that you find something that you say like, it's okay, So definitely my favorite here, steering wheel quality and also the seats, because they are also very comfortable for tall people. Rear seats, the rear doors here, hard pack there, but we have the same microfiber inside. And then once again, the highlight is that I'm really happy with the fabric seat quality and also the leatherette quality here in the middle. Then pulling down this. Some cup holders, they are not adaptive though. And we can also change the inclination here. So you can make it more in this cargo position like this, or more laid back. And it's a 2/3, 1/3 split here. Then you can see the small difference here. In this case, more laid back, and it's actually fairly comfortable. Of course, electric platform, then your feet are a little bit higher like this, still okay. And you can see, even if I'm driving as a tall person, it's not the longest vehicle. It's also not super short, you know, like there's still possibility to house 4 tall adults in here, and then headroom also with 1A9, 6'2", no problem, so that's okay. I would have imagined that it's actually worse, but here the longer wheelbase helps in comparison to the combustion engine C-HR. And in the middle seat, yeah, for shorter trips, I think even 5 adults could work. Trunk or boot at 420 liters. Let's check it out. And there is a surprise here, because they have a completely different system as for how you can interact with the trunk bottom and so on. So this here, the trolley leaf also fits in vertically, no problem at all. And then here, these are these bottom shelves, and usually you have it like in one piece and then you set it in a lower position. But here they thought, why don't we reinvent the wheel? So here you can take these individual things and move them further down. So like here, set them more down like this, and then this one like this. And then you have gained this. Interesting. At least you're flexible. And then here, the normal trunk length is about 34 inches, 85 centimeters. That's already good. And then to the seats, as we would be driving, is 1 meters 60 or 63 inches. The width right here is, it depends. This is here 1 meter 40 inches, and then it gets way wider here. This is extremely wide, and to the wheel arches, interesting. And for the total height, we have to take out that thing here. There we go. And then we're here at this decent 80 centimeters or 32 inches. So that's pretty cool. And then you can see when this one is out, you can also theoretically fold the seats from here to have this full luggage setup. Let's start driving the Toyota C-HR+. First things first, you cannot see it when you are in the CarPlay mode, but when you're in any other display mode, you can press like this little symbol, like a speed sign symbol here on top of the infotainment, and then you can deactivate this EU speed chime law. And also, what's pretty cool here, Google Maps, you can see here in the top instruments, I also have an arrow visualization in the instruments. So this is coming from the CarPlay. Also nice to have that. Yeah, just a little bit the problem here with the visibility over the steering wheel, because the lower part is a little bit blocked. I can see the arrow and I can see the speed. Yeah, that's about it. But it could be a little bit better as for the arrangement. Yeah, maybe I have to put the steering wheel then like a little bit lower or something like that. Maybe it's a little bit better. Then let's talk about how this car is driving. Of course, difference also to the C-HR hybrid and plug-in is that here it's all the time electric, not only part-time electric, and starting very smooth. You remember from our interior part that we also have the laminated windows in the front here, left and right. And important also, we have the 18-inch wheels here, and there were just some roots. Oh, that's so funny. Behind us is actually a C-HR, not sure if it's a plug-in hybrid or hybrid, but the non-electric one. So I'm just seeing that behind us. So 18-inch wheels will be better for the comfort. Oh no, Leah is taking a shot behind us here. Yeah, that's a funny coincidence, definitely. I love this golden color, by the way, also. So now, let's see. Did I lose the... Ah, right, I lost the CarPlay.
Yeah,
because,
sorry,
yeah, exactly. So now I lost the map, and of course took the wrong direction. But that also
always like that.
is always like that, right? But we can make like a small test here. What about, like, you know, turning back and forth? Yeah, it's pretty agile actually. And here, reverse gear. I don't get why it's beeping all the time. Yeah, it's a safety mechanism, but come on. But here, easily done. So it's pretty agile, you know. So that's also the thing, that it's not a large vehicle. It's relatively small, and that's why you can ease it around very much. Also, the steering has a very good interface. You have no dead zone. Reactions always pretty precise and direct. I like it. So it's a good neutral handling. And the 20-inch wheels will also be a little bit less in comfort when you're going on some bumps. We just had like some roots in the, where the roots come up basically from underneath. It's so powerful, by the way. This, like when plant cells actually, when there's like, when there's like some water getting in the cells, they can really like, poof, basically fight against all the hardest tarmac. It's really, really crazy, really, really crazy. Very interesting biologic fact actually. So, but different topic, back to the cars. And then here on the speed bumps.
Suspension is good.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I think they found a good balance. So here, I mean, when we're going some left and right, has a very nice, precise, direct feeling to it, but at the same time, I don't lose comfort. So I think they really hit the right spot here. This is always the balance between comfort and sportiness, and I think they found a very, very nice balance here. In comparison to the C-Hr non-electric, here the C-Hr+ also has a lower center of gravity, yet at the same time, it of course carries more weight because of that battery, in this case, and here the big battery. It's not especially big battery in the overall electric market, I gotta say that. But let's see what range we can score very soon. Here, once again, a little bit quicker over the speed hump. Yeah, that feels actually really nice already when driving it in the city. I also have still a good overview, and even to the rear, that the C-Hr is popular also for having no visibility to the rear. But here the C-Hr+ definitely works well, and also when looking to the rear and also to the sides and so on. And once again, the comfortable seats play also a role when being in this vehicle, also as a tall person. But even more interesting, well, about performance, efficiency, and also assistance systems on the motorway. Let's go. Plop. This was 60 to 120 kilometers an hour, first acceleration, and although it is only the front-wheel drive model and it was slightly uphill, I think that's fine. So I would say sufficient acceleration then here for this one. Tarmac is very rough here. Let's see the difference from right to left. Yeah, that's better. Still gotta say 120 kilometers an hour. Yeah, this tarmac is really, really, really rough. Some definitely in Portugal and Spain on the motorways definitely. But when it's a little bit better, as for the wind noise only, at 120 kilometers an hour, it's, I would say...
110 was okay, but 120 was too windy then. Yeah.
Interesting.
And we can test it.
Yeah, we can try it. I mean, now the tarmac is a little bit better.
Yeah.
120 is, I mean, it's good, very good that we have the insulation here, because otherwise I think it would be louder. But if I go like for 110... Yeah, that's better. That's better. Yeah, I would say like you can.
It's fine.
Yeah, you can still sustain that 120 kilometers an hour. But although we have the lamination, it's not the most silent car overall on the motorway. Let's take it that way. We can also take here the other motorway, which has a little bit different surface. But how the car is reacting here, how calm it is, that's actually quite nice. Once again, a good setup here from the suspension. And the acceleration was also fine. So blind spot monitor, we are also having the side mirrors, by the way. And when we switch to the other motorway, we can also take a look at the assistance systems with cruise control and so on. It's always good to test also how the car is behaving when you switch from one motorway to another. So let's switch over right here. Nice lane change as well. Also have a good grip on the steering wheel, and it has a nice small form. So it's actually a lot of fun to steer that one here around. Yeah, it's like I think under 100 kilometers an hour. That's perfectly silent.
Perfect,
yeah. So I mean, they pay a lot of attention then to non-high-speed markets, of course, and it's always a German thing that you drive like really, really fast on the motorway. Really like to 105 something. That's really super silent, But then 110 plus, like Leah said. Then it gets a little bit more louder. But here now we have also the even tarmac, so that's then fine. The other one was maybe like a extreme example from sound underneath. So still 120 kilometers an hour is a good travel speed then for this vehicle. And once again, stable in the lane change. Let's now put in the adaptive cruise control and let's see how that one is mastered. You can change the speed also a little bit like this. And we also have lane keeping assist. I can activate or deactivate it easily then here in there, and now it's also actively keeping the lane, and this is also actually quite nice. So there's not, because here the motorway is also reminding me that I should keep my hands on the steering wheel, but I try to give you the best example of that. Here the car is steering itself at this moment, and it's doing that so far in a quite smooth way. So they definitely made a development here also as for the smoothness, the integration of the assistance systems, and that's actually quite decent. One more thing we did not mention yet in the city driving, by the way, is that you can play with the recuperation. This is done here with the pedals, so you can make it stronger or less strong. So for example, when I'm here, just leaving my foot from the throttle, you can have just a very slight recuperation. Let's see when I press and hold it. It still does a slight recuperation indeed. And then I can also make it stronger, here less strong. So it depends. This is like almost nothing, and then 2, 3, 4. This is very strong then. It's not as strong as you maybe know it from other EVs, but it's already like significantly strong. But you can have the same efficiency when you just use the brake then yourself. Pricing, 42,000 euros entry, 46,000 euros for the big battery, 4,000 euros extra, 52,000 euros big battery plus all-wheel drive, 2,000 euros extra for some equipment like panoramic roof, JBL sound system and so on. So 45,000 euros is the full spec price and so on. As it stands here right now, you stay still under 50,000 euros. Definitely the biggest problem is that the charging is not that quick. However, even more important, as I said, is the efficiency. And now to our extensive range test here for today. First test, very good conditions here, so optimum temperatures for the battery and so on. 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour on the motorway and topographic equalization. We could score some 14.5 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That's 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour. Would mean a real road range at that speed of 500 kilometers, 300 miles for the big battery, or 370 kilometers, 230 miles for the small battery. Then at 120 kilometers an hour, 70 miles per hour on the motorway, we could score some 18 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers, so 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Would then mean real world range of 400 kilometers or 250 miles for the big battery and 300 kilometers or 190 miles for the small battery. And I think overall that makes sense. It's not a large vehicle, doesn't stand so much against the wind, and also the small tires. That's why, although the battery is not that large and the recharging is not that quick, you could still score some decent range here on the motorway. What do you think about that? And now tune in to some of the competitors.